Living somewhere that gets 30 days of night during the year, I couldn't do it, but it does make a great scenario for a horror film. Let's get into one right now. Welcome back to my channel, and the film I am speaking of is 30 Days of Night. This is based on a graphic novel series by Steve Niles, and this movie was produced by Sam Raimi and Rob Tappert, and they are the gentlemen who brought us to Evil Dead back in the 80s and a lot of other films. And originally Sam Raimi was supposed to direct this film, but he decided just to produce it, and they brought in David Slade, who was coming off of Hard Candy at the time. This movie was released in October of 2007. I saw it in the theaters when it was released that year. It's rated R, hour and 53 minutes. Had a budget of $30 million, and upon release in the US, it made $39.5, and worldwide, it made $75.5 million. And in this film, we have Josh Hartnett as Eben. We have Melissa George as Stella. They're a husband and wife that are going through some difficulties. Mark Boone Jr. as Bo, who's fantastic and probably one of his biggest roles besides on Sons of Anarchy. Usually in movies, he's only in movies for a few minutes because he was in Seven, John Carpenter's Vampires. Danny Huston as Marlowe, the head vampire, and Ben Foster as the Stranger, in an early role for him. And basically, I have the original graphic novel, 30 Days of Night. I'm not a big comic book reader, but I do have that one. My wife had bought it for me when we were dating as a present. And basically, the story takes place in Barrow, Alaska. And it's the last day of sunlight in the beginning of the film, and about 70% of the population is getting out of Dodge before darkness sets, and they won't see the sunlight again for 30 days. And we see this ship off in the distance on the ice, surrounded by ice, and this guy walking towards the camera. And then we see him walking towards town, and then we're introduced to Eben and Stella. They're married, but Stella's leaving to go to Anchorage, Alaska, and they're splitting up. And Eben is the sheriff of this small town. During regular time of year, there's only 500 some people that live there, and during the 30 days of night, only 100 and some people live there. And Evan's making sure he's taking in the last sunset with his deputy and making sure everything's okay around town and people are getting out. And all of a sudden, I'm going to fast forward over some things here. In the diner in town, this guy who's Ben Foster, as he's known as a Stranger only, is sitting there, and he wants a bowl of raw meat, and he's very strange, and he starts giving the waitress a hard time, and he grabs her wrists, and Evan shows up and arrests him. And Stella never makes her flight. She gets stuck in town because of an accident, and she shows up to help Evan arrest this gentleman. And they take him to the police station, and he's saying all this kind of crazy shit about they're coming and there's nothing you can do, they're going to kill you all. And all of a sudden we see these people, or these things, which are vampires. And these aren't romantic vampires. These are just beasts. They just tear people's throats out. They're here to decimate this town. And after night falls, it's just on. And that's pretty much 30 Days of Night. And our surviving people, the siege on the town is well done for the most part. This movie has some very striking visuals with the snow, the wind. It's very beautiful to look at. And it does come off of almost like a graphic novel jumping off the page for sure. My only problem is during the main siege, which goes on for a little bit. It's a pretty well constructed scene, except for shaky cam. Frickin' shaky cam ruined some of it. And I even thought back then, and the last time was the first time I watched this again in a long time, and I thought, I still like this film, but there's some problems, and that's one of them. There's too much shaky cam during the main siege, and you can't see exactly what the hell is going on. But this movie is bloody as hell, and basically the survivors hold up in how they go from house to house trying to hide from these beasts, these vampires. And eventually at the end, they're down to only maybe 4 or 5 people, and Eben realizes he's going to have to make a sacrifice to save everybody. They're on their last night before the sun's about to rise, and he injects himself with vampire blood, turns into a vampire, and takes on Marlowe, the head vampire. And this is another part where I always had a problem with, even back in 2007. The climax of the film, this battle between Eben and Marlowe, while the resolution of the fight is awesome, in all of its gory glory, it's not what it should have been for all the build-up. It should have been a more knockdown, drag-out fight. Pretty much Evan gets his ass kicked through most of it, and then he just happens to pull off this move and kills Marlowe in a great, again, gory, glorious way. But the climax of this film is just not what it should have been, considering how kick-ass the rest of the movie was. Again, this movie's very well shot. It's beautiful to look at, except for some of the shaky cam and some of the close-ups. A little too close-up to see what's going on. But overall, I really like this film. Now, this film takes place in Alaska, but it was shot in New Zealand. And Barrow, Alaska, although they did change the name, I'm not sure what it's called now. Actually, it's not 30 days a night. They actually don't see sunlight for 60-some days. I think 67 days I read. That's a long time without sunlight, man. I couldn't do it. And that's about it for trivia. But yeah, have you ever seen 30 Days a Night? I would give this film a 7.75 out of 10. I really like it, but the main siege in the film, my problems are the main siege in the film, some of the shaky cam kind of ruins how kick-ass it is, because it is a kick-ass scene, but could have did without the shaky cam. Also, the passage of time, the 30 days of time, the way they do it, I don't know, it just doesn't work all the time. I don't know if that makes sense. And even at an hour and 53 minutes, and I know they have to show the passage of 30 days, which I don't think they were completely successful at, I think the movie's a tad long. It prods along a little bit. I think about 5 minutes could have been shaved off this film easily. And then the climax is kind of a letdown. I mean, the resolution of the climax kicks ass, but the final fight is definitely not what it should have been, considering the build-up for the rest of the story. But yes, I still give this film a 7.75 out of 10. It's still a kick-ass vampire movie, one of the better vampire movies we've got in a while, for sure. And yeah, I like this film. Again, last night was the first time I've seen it in a long time. I'm going to do a few vampire reviews in a row. I'm doing this. I think I'm going to do John Carpenter's Vampires and The Lost Boys. I think I'm going to do a triple of vampire films, coming off my R-rated action films reviews. So have you ever seen 30 Days a Night? What are your thoughts? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. Share this video. I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe out there. Take care. And I'll be back soon with another review. Thanks. Bye.